In this, so in these next 20 pages that I read of the Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, uh, Gladwell addresses a very interesting stereotype that I've been that I've heard a lot, especially in the high school environment, and so what he talks about in this chapter is the stereotype of Asians being better at mathematics and studies in general, and he clears up the air with beginning with that it's not a stereotype that Asians are smarter in these things, but it's a fact. Uh, Larger populations of Asians tend to do better at mathematics and English than other ethnicities. And he begins the chapter with that. And what he tries to prove in this passage is that it's not. What he tries to prove is that there is a very good reason to why Asians, people belonging to that ethnicity, tend to be more successful. So he begins with the Chinese cultural legacy of of them of building a rice paddy, right? Of growing rice, and he describes how working on a rice farm is extremely hard work, and it requires persistence and determination, and these qualities are overshine other skills and talents such as IQ and intelligence that you're born with. This the characteristic of determination and persistence. And what he argues is that these qualities that the Chinese were able to not just create but also refine because of all the hard work that they did on working on rice farms and so on. These skills were passed on to their later generations, and he showed that recent studies show that students that are more inclined to working harder and working carefully, meaning that they don't rush, they don't take shortcuts, they don't do all of that, but instead they work hard and diligently. They're much more successful. They're much more likely to be successful in mathematics. And other students who might have a higher IQ level, might be more intelligent, but don't put in that work, they won't be as successful. So, again, going back to the argument that Gladwell has been making for the past few passages, that the cultural heritage aspect coming in again, that this cultural aspect of these traits being passed on from a generation to a generation is coming in, and this is where he ends his passage off with. And I have to say, I really agree with what he said, and this is something that my father told me a while ago too, because I had this conversation with him, and he said that these things are very culture based, and he gave me the example of Germans, for example. Germans are very hardworking people. That's why they keep coming back. They started as the underdog before even going back to the 1700s, when it was all about Britain and France and those other powers. Even before that, in the Spanish Inquisition, even Spain was strong. So these three were the big superpowers. Nobody talked about Germany, and out of nowhere Germany got stronger and stronger, and those people worked hard. Germans are hardworking people, and that determination, that persistence stayed with them. So they became powerful, and the World War happened. They were weakened, they were brought to the ground, but then they worked hard again, and then they became strong enough to start another World War, and then they were again crushed, brought to the ground, and today again Germany is one of the most powerful countries. So that aspect of working hard and determination, it carries on in the people itself.